Hey, Jerry Corley here, standupcomedyclinic.com with another episode of Ask the Joke Doctor. In this episode, we're going to do a joke writing tutorial on the Olympics, not just the Olympics, but we're going to show you how to drill down to specific topics to make the joke writing or finding the jokes a little more available to your brain. I'm going to try to keep this video as efficient as possible. Sometimes when you're doing these, I've got a balance here to make, right? I want to make it efficient, but I don't want to over edit it to the point where you guys don't see the work happening. You don't see the process going on. So you have to exercise patience in watching this. It's not going to be like, here's how you write jokes. Step one, do this. Step two, do this, that, and then you're done, right? Like you get a lot of that from other channels out there that want to show you how to do it. And I'm sure they mean well, but they're not actually showing you the process, showing you the mistakes you might make, showing you the not so good ones along with the good ones so that you can go in there and edit, change, improve, or just toss the joke. So in this one, we're just going to kind of show you the raw process as best possible without taking a full 30 minutes or 45 minutes in the video. First of all, I just want to tell you that when you're preparing jokes, there's a certain process you should follow when doing jokes. Number one, when somebody sits down and says, write jokes, I got to write some jokes today. What's happening? You stare at a blank screen. Why? Because there's too much information hitting your brain. It's not necessarily that you can't come up with an idea. Ideas are a dime a dozen. It's like they're everywhere, right? It depends on whether you can find an angle or whether that would actually create some sort of hypocrisy or incongruity or irony or surprise. So you start with some topic, right? And when you choose a topic, be sure the topic is relatable to your audience. Does it create some sort of curiosity or excitement? One of the things that can enhance that ability is a fact, something that may change somebody's life. Keep in mind, human beings are wired for new information. They love to hear new information. If you give them new information, they figure that's some sort of survival mechanism at a deeply subconscious level, and they can't resist hearing the new information. So, and here's something also important to remember, whether you're listening to this tutorial and maybe you're going to be skeptical, you're going to have some judgment towards it, or whether you're actually writing jokes to prepare for an event, stand up, writing for a host or whatever, you have to do something. You have to imagine that you're not on a page, right? Stand-up jokes or jokes intended for a host to talk about or a comedian to talk about are not intended to be read. They're intended to be performed and spoken. So you have to imagine yourself not only speaking the jokes, but speaking them in front of an audience. An audience creates tension, so it heightens the expectation. And there's going to be some jokes which you may read may come off as so-so, but when you imagine delivering that joke to an audience, all of a sudden, because of the tension in the room and the electricity in the room with an audience present, you're going to get a bigger response than you anticipate. Plus, as comedians, we're skeptical. We're trying to think of the funny. Audiences are thinking linearly. They're getting locked into the details of the story. That's what audiences do. They hear a story. They start following the trajectory of the logic of the story. They're not thinking about the alternative, which is how you make the jokes. So with that in mind, you have to give the sometimes jokes on the page go, that's nothing. And it's like, then all of a sudden it delivered in front of an audience, it gets a bigger laugh than you would expect. It really is weird that way. Remember the first jokes I submitted to the Tonight Show? Oh, they were on Zachary Taylor, the 19th president of the United States, who was exhumed. They exhumed his body to see whether or not he was poisoned, like hundreds of years later, right? So I put in there, I go, CNN apologized for not being able to provide us pictures of the crypt. And the joke was, oh, there's a centerfold you wouldn't want to miss. Now, that was in Leno's voice, right? So delivered like Jay Leno. So I would even deliver it in a sense in my head, like Jay Leno, CNN apologized for not being able to give us pictures of the crypt. Like, because there's a centerfold you wouldn't want to miss, right? So that joke, I thought was an average joke. It was more of a transitionary joke on the page of jokes that I sent to submit to them. And that's the joke they chose. And I was like, why did they choose that joke? Then I watched the show and it actually got a nice laugh. I was surprised at the level laugh it got. And it taught me something that on the Tonight Show, certainly at that time, they weren't looking for edgy material. They were looking for material that was middle of the road that audiences can enjoy and have fun with as a piece of entertainment, not quite as much for the edge of it. Now things have changed a little bit, but still, they're going, they're not necessarily going towards edgy or shocking in late night TV. And these particular jokes we'll be presenting today are more towards late night TV, middle of the road. People can get them. There's not a lot of configuration, right? It's got to happen right now. So keep that in mind. And you have to keep that in mind when you're writing these jokes. Otherwise, the jokes will risk falling flat. So the first joke that I sort of saw in the page was, they were talking about swimming in the Seine River. One of the first events was the triathlon, right? And they were jumping into the Seine River to swim. And I'm like, oof, that river is polluted. So immediately I realized there was an emotion going on. And who wants to jump into a polluted river to swim, right? So it said the headline in my news app said, Olympic triathletes swim in the Seine River after days of water quality concerns. So I also looked at the headline, which it was in the first paragraph. So when you're writing jokes for current events, don't just skim the headlines. Don't be a headline skimmer. Go into the first paragraph of the joke. And I found this line that was like, Olympic triathletes swam in the forever polluted Seine River after days of water quality concerns. Now, if you think about that, that sounds more like a headline that might be stated in a late night TV show. So plus it gets out all that information. Olympic triathletes, we know who, right? The characters swam in the forever polluted, the setting, Seine River, forever polluted Seine River after days of water quality concerns. That heightens the stakes, right? Because it's like, oh, yeesh, what happened, right? Creates a bit of a hook, right? So in that sort of situation, we have something going on. So you have some ideas converging. Now, keep in mind, those of you who have seen this before, be patient with the review because I'm doing this for everybody, even beginners. The first definition of a joke, way back to Aristotle, said a joke is the convergence of two dissimilar ideas. So you have a main idea, then you have a condition, you have a main idea and a setting, you have a main idea and a situation, you have a main idea and something else significant. Like I can tell you I'm lazy, that's one idea. But if I said I'm a lazy lover, now we see how the premise opens up. Like, okay, lazy lover, what does that mean? I'm a lazy lover. You guys great lovers? I'm a lazy lover. Like my favorite position during sex is a nap. So now, because lazy was combined with lover, you have two dissimilar ideas converging. Does that make sense? All right. So with this particular headline, you have to kind of use a little bit of strategy, and you have to get your brain operating to begin to identify the different ideas. So keep in mind, after this video, the next video I'm doing is I'm going to take not just current event headlines, but I'm going to take regular lines from life, statements from life that are dealing with situations we might be doing, and then showing you where to find that second idea. So that, because I just got this from another student, he said, Jerry, that's I like your headline stuff, but how do I take this for regular life situations and find that second idea and create comedy from it? And so we'll be doing that in the next video. But for this one, let's take a look at what we've got here. So in this thing, we have the jokes for the Olympic joke writing. We have so what I do is identify the dissimilar ideas. In this particular joke setup, which is Olympic triathletes swam in the forever polluted Seine River after days of water quality concerns, we have the converging ideas. There's 4 or 5 in this one, but I'm going to pick 3. Polluted river, swimming, Olympics. So now we have these 3 ideas. Now I'm going to go in and I'm going to find associated ideas related to each of those elements: polluted river, swimming, Olympics. So in here, you have toxins, carcinogens, illness, E. coli, diarrhea, cancer, bacteria, debris, dealing with polluted, right? Old tires, dead bodies, cigarette butts, plastic, cultural, agricultural runoff, cultural runoff. It's like, you're going to find some racism in the river. Oil and gas, furniture and appliances, old car parts, car batteries, grease, household waste, boats, fish, floating fish, toxically poisoned fish, and other organisms. Now we can go on from that, but I just kept it at that level for now. Normally, when I'm doing a listing technique, I try to find 20 for each of these elements. Sometimes while you're doing that process, doing this listing process, you find an idea that can tie into something else, and then you go write the joke, then you come back to the list. That's the key. Remember that. If some idea is spontaneously inspired while you're just doing this list of people, places, things, words, phrases, cliches, events, then write the joke. Go write the joke on a fresh page, then come back to the list. So in swimming, we had breaststroke. New idea. If you're in a polluted river that has toxins in it, who knows what kind of toxins are in it? Could really stimulate some crazy shit. And if I'm going to exaggerate, I might say breaststroke. And so you might have a joke that might be, some of the swimmers swam the breaststroke, and by the end of the race, they had 3 breasts. So right there, I'd be inspired for that, and I would go down to the page and I would write those ideas maybe down in the joke section. So if we go back, we've swimming, breaststroke, win the gold, silver, bronze. Again, that's medal, right? I think of medal in a polluted river. I would probably write down tetanus here as a possibility, right? So again, I'm getting it all, tetanus. I would write down that as a possibility. Everything that comes to your mind, get it on the page. It's so important because a new idea will fill that space in no time. If you have it on the page, you're in control. If it's not on the page, whatever distractions are in control. Does that make sense? And in addition, if you're looking to be better than other comedians, get it on the damn page, because 99% of the comedians aren't doing this stuff. They're not doing the work. They're just maybe trying to get to the punchline as fast as possible, because that's where the fun is, right? In the punchline. But if you do the work, you're going to get better jokes, and you have a larger volume of jokes to draw from when doing your material. So freestyle, stroke, backstroke, wade, tread, water, tread. I'm thinking tread and spare tire. I'll come back to that later. Kick, underwater, sink, swim, lapse, lap or lapse, murky water, breath, breathing, stroke, disqualification, silver, gold, bronze again, time, transition, compliance. These are the rules, right? Swallow water, long distance, sprint, 100 meter, 200 meter, 400 meter, relay, medley. So there's a whole list there. Then I'll go to Olympics, test positive for doping, drug test, performance enhancing drugs, testosterone, 5 Olympic rings, Olympic Village, athletes, world's top athletes, competition, glowing with pride, competition again, protest, medal winners, medal count, podium, Olympic torch, flame, opening ceremony, closing ceremony, world record, personal best, sportsmanship, doping, training, competition. Again, competition, I think I had in there 3 times, right? So, but that was just sort of me freestyling in the brain. Once I have it on the page, I can cut that stuff out. Once we get to the jokes, we restate the headline. And it's key for you to restate the headline when you're pitching jokes, because the brain has got to connect those ideas. If it doesn't connect those ideas, it's not going to get the joke, even though we know what it is. If you go back and watch David Letterman's top 10 list, he'd read the premise and then start going through the list, and he'd never go more than 2 without going back and reiterating the premise, because the audience's brain has to connect those ideas and sort through them. Most brains can only keep track of 2 or 3 ideas, maybe 4 if you're really good at it, at the same time. So Olympic triathletes swam in the forever polluted Seine River after days of water quality concerns. At the end of the race, medal winners glowed with pride. The rest of the swimmers just glowed in the dark. Originally, the joke I wrote was this, glowed. I said originally the joke was written like at the end of the race, the medal winners were glowing with pride, because that's what I heard one of the announcers say. Oh, they're glowing with pride. And I said, while the rest of the swimmers were just glowing. But I thought, what would make it even more visual? Glowing in the dark, quicker image, right? You can see that image. And when you see that image glowing in the dark, swimmers glowing in the dark, that's 3 descriptors. If you know about that rule, the better that 3 descriptors is necessary to create vivid imagery. If you could create that imagery, the better the imagery, the better the laugh. So glowing in the dark, my instinct tells me, will be a better joke. Now, keep in mind, despite the fact that I've been doing this for 30 years, in the end, The audience is always the judge. I might think something's funny and I lay it out to the audience flatline because they didn't quite get something. Maybe I was missing a connector. And one of the most common things to do is to throw in some fluff before you get to the punch. And they have what I call an associative gap, where the information is now jumbled. There's a short circuit and the audience doesn't quite get the joke because it's the connection is not tight. So in this sort of situation, glowing in the dark, I think would get a better laugh. Normally during a triathlon, swimmers are judged on time and compliance. They should have added an extra difficulty for avoiding debris. Simple joke. If I was doing this in a newscast, it would get a chuckle from probably the crew and the people viewing, because they don't expect a linear news broadcaster to give an alternative reality, just the news, right? So the expectation of just getting the information is so high that when you deviate, it adds a surprise and could tickle the audience. So not a laugh off, fall out of your seat laughing joke, but still a decent piece of humor. Thankfully, so let's reread that headline. Olympic triathletes swam in the forever polluted Seine River after days of water quality concerns. Thankfully, they all took a drug test before the race, because after the race, they'd all tested positive for something, mostly tuberculosis. So what would you get from a poisonous or polluted river? I don't know. I went with the tuberculosis. There's other things you could say there. One thing I said was they took you could come out with chlamydia. So, whatever you want to use in there, you can plug in. It's really, if you think about it, it's just one big doping scandal. Because to swim in that river, you got to be one big dope. Simple, silly, mirrored phrase type of joke. And because of the coincidence that one big dope and one big doping scandal are basically an ing different in the two different phrases, but they mean different things, it adds a coincidence, bit of a paradox, so it heightens the possibility for that joke to work. At the beginning of the race, all the swimmers had six-pack abs. By the end of the race, some had spare tires. What do you find in a polluted river? I think that's on our list, wasn't it? We had spare tires here somewhere. All right, floating fish, car parts, old car parts, right? So there you have that. The swimmers swam the river using the freestyle stroke. They were afraid that if they did the breaststroke, they'd wind up with three breasts. A version of that breast joke we did at first, right? But you can get deeper with it and share some more information to the audience. Jokes aren't just there for the laugh. Jokes are there to sort of like offer new information to the audience. If you can offer some sort of new information to the audience and that makes them more curious, they're like, oh, I didn't know that. Then you hit them with that surprise. They're not only getting a joke, they're getting a takeaway. You've actually transformed their life in one way or another by giving them a new piece of information. Now they can take this idea and they can go to their friends, use this new piece of information and sound smart. So let's start again. I can say, after Olympic athletes swam in the forever polluted Seine River, the Olympic Committee is thinking of changing the 5 rings of the Olympics to 6 by adding ringworm. Ringworm is a fungus you get from usually being exposed to unsanitary conditions. So is a polluted river unsanitary? Yes. Is it possible or plausible you can get ringworm from swimming in the forever polluted Seine River? Possibly, yes. We heighten the reality. We got a joke. When telling jokes, it's not just about the joke. The joke usually comes with a takeaway. Here's that piece of information. The 5 rings of the Olympics represent the 5 inhabited continents of the world. A ring for Africa, a ring for the Americas, a ring for Asia, a ring for Europe, and a ring for Oceania. And now the Olympic Committee is considering adding a 6th, ringworm. So it's a different way of talking about doing the ringworm punchline, but adding more sustenance or information at the beginning. I mean, how many people remember that the 5 rings represent the 5 inhabited continents of the world? So speaking of continents, after swimming in the Seine River, a lot of the swimmers experienced incontinence. Well, another joke just as a result of that. So if we go back during the Olympics, the first swimmers in the forever polluted Seine River were the competitors for the men's triathlon, where Alex Yee came away with the gold, Hayden Wild came away with the silver, and the rest of the swimmers came away with AIDS. All right, that might be a little too harsh for some. I could put the word cancer in there. I want to heighten the stakes, right? So if I said during the Olympics, the first swimmers of the forever polluted Seine River were the competitors for the men's triathlon, where Alex Yee came away with the gold, Hayden Wild came away with the silver, and the rest of the swimmers came away with tetanus. Given the fact that gold and silver are metals in the forever polluted Seine, they could wind up getting rusty. What happens if you get rusty metal in and it penetrates your skin? You could get tetanus. So in this case, I added tetanus as a possibility. Another way of doing that is to say the swimmers came from behind. So if I state the punchline again here, Olympic triathletes swam in the forever polluted Seine River after days of water quality concerns. The swimmers that came from behind to win are really amazing, right? I don't know how they do it. Despite being exhausted at the end of the race, they can catch up. They actually are able to find something inside them, deep inside them. I mean, some say they're able to find a second wind. Some say they're able to find God. One of the swimmers said he found Amelia Earhart's airplane. There's another way exaggerated joke. It would work on a news program. It would work on a general sort of like current events program because the audience still pictures the linear outcome of each of those steps in that three-way buildup, and they don't expect somebody to come up with an Amelia Earhart's airplane. That would be a big piece of debris you would find in that river. So that is a quick tutorial. I tried to do it as efficiently as possible and to come up with jokes based on this particular subject using a listing technique. Now, if I spent some more time with this list, I'd come up with more jokes. But I just wanted to put this tutorial up there and let you guys come up with some jokes using this similar concept. So find that second idea, do the listing technique, and see what it inspires. So you can try this on your own and see if it works for you. If you have any questions, leave a comment. If you have any of your own jokes, by all means, leave a comment. I love to read those. And if you like this video, by all means, subscribe, click that bell so that you can come back when I put up new videos about stand-up comedy and how to write comedy. And I hope this added value to your day. Look forward to seeing you guys again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.